So in this video, I wanted to point out something. So in John, the book of John, we have the story of Jesus' first miracle, which is to turn water into wine. And it's very interesting because this was an absolute scam. So does everybody understand that the New Testament was being written at the time when the Jews were being slaughtered all over the place? Being slaughtered, and there's rivers of bloods like flowing to the sea. It's amazing that we have this kind of stuff, but the main things I mentioned this in another video before that I think I might have taken down, and I'll be putting back up hopefully on this channel, Zarah Hashem. But basically, Jesus uses the ritual washing vessels, the use for ritual washing of hands, to create wine in for this wedding, which is undermining the whole idea of the purity, right? Because we're taught mein achronim chovah. So washing your hands, washing your fingers after a meal is more important than washing them before a meal. So if you have limited water, you can do away with washing your hands before a meal, but you can't do away with washing your hands after the meal. Mein achronim. So even during war, you cannot do away with it. It is a chovah. It is an obligation. Okay? So that story is undermining that. But beside the point there's something that comes up in Avodah Zarah, the Talmud Avodah Zarah. There's a story about Hadrian. There's Hadriatic wine. This is very interesting. Most people don't know about it. Christians never heard of it. Hadriatic wine. So Emperor Hadrian, he came across a virgin valley that had never been plowed before. And what he did was he planted a vineyard in it. And the wine that the vineyard produced was of very high quality. And what they did was they put it in these special pottery vessels. And what happened was it like absorbed the wine. And then what they did was they shattered the vessels, and basically they're in pieces. And what they could do was they could take that with them. And then whenever they wanted wine, they could put those pieces of pottery into a vessel that had water in it, and it would leach out. And what it would do is it would create this wine. And using those pieces, they could use it multiple times. And third use of those pottery pieces, the wine from the third use of those pottery pieces was better than first-rate Jewish wine. Remind you, the Gemara specifically says that Hadriatic wine was pasul. You can't use it. It's prohibited from being used, from being drunk. Okay? So the idea is that story in John, it's interesting because I have this book, okay? You can get this. This isn't, it's all the New Testament manuscripts, in print form, but in some cases pictures of the earliest New Testament manuscripts for the first 4 centuries of Christianity. It's complete. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. All of the New Testament manuscripts were created, were manufactured, were made in Egypt. Okay, they all came out of Egypt. They did not come out of Judea. They did not come out of Syria. They did not come out of Antioch or Rome or anything like that. They came out of Egypt. This is what the historical record shows us. They all came out of Egypt. There are people that say, all based on the content of the stories and everything else, that they came out of Judea. They did not. They did not. The first manuscript that shows up in Judea of the New Testament is from the 9th century. That's when some people date it. Some people even date it to the 10th century. Literally 1,000 years after, a millennia after Christianity began. Okay. So mind you that this stuff comes out of Egypt, okay? It was manufactured to destroy Judaism. There was a war on Judaism, to destroy Judaism, to wipe it off the face of this earth, okay? And that's exactly what this story also intends. And it's showing you something that very few people know about, and that's Hadriatic wine, that Jesus created some miracle. But the interesting thing is, all the manuscripts that have the story in John about the miracle of the wine are found in manuscripts that date after Hadrian was emperor. And he was emperor from, I think, 117 to 138, something like that. And the manuscripts that this is contained in is P66, P75, and Early Unical 0162. Okay? These are late 2nd century manuscripts, or in the case of Unical 0162, late 3rd or early 4th century. So this stuff is it's written after the time of these events significantly, but this story specifically comes after Hadriatic wine was a historical fact. So just let that sink in, that so there you go. Now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey might say that.